Hi everybody, Dr. Samantha Luther here, pediatric and prenatal chiropractor here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And today we're going to be talking about something that I feel needs to be brought light to, kind of remove and bring up to towards the surface. And with taking care of a lot of mamas in my office, that's kind of one of my big clientele that I have. I get to see them through their journey of the prenatal aspect of their chiropractic, care. But then we get to a part of postnatal and the baby's here. It's wonderful, it's glorious, but there's a lot of mamas out there that actually might be suffering with some postpartum anxiety and depression. And like I say, mental health in this country, I think needs to be, like I say, brought to the surface. And it's nothing to kind of mess around with, but it's also something that we shouldn't be ashamed of. We shouldn't be afraid of talking to others about, and we should just be, open and honest and just knowing. And I want this video just to let you know, you are not alone. You're never alone in this journey. There's always someone out there that you can reach out to, and we're just going to talk about who some of those people might be and what they can do for you. With anxiety and depression, postpartumly, we're going to be talking about how it presents, what's actually kind of happening within your body, and then also some of the things that are going on underneath the surface. Because we've all maybe experienced anxiety before, maybe a little depression. If you haven't, and this is a whole new game for you, here's just some things like to say, okay, like I did kind of feel that, or why am I feeling this way, or why does this feel different from like the first kiddo that I have, and this one has, I'm having more anxiety or depression with the second kiddo. And so just learning about all the different things and like facets that are going on in your life and how that might be affecting you. So starting off with depression, postpartum depression, it is actually brought to light way more, which is great, than the anxiety part. But here's some facts like on postpartum depression. There's a Harvard study done, and I think out of 1,000 new mamas, there is a 6% rate of women saying that they felt like they had suffered from postpartum depression. I firmly believe that that might be a little bit higher, because maybe all these women were not truly reporting how they were feeling, with the fear of like being looked at differently, or being looked at as weak, or being looked at as, oh, this shouldn't be a depressing time in your life. I think that and why that is there's just lots and lots of pressure for new moms to be everything and be all of this. And my Lord, the way social media has changed this in our world, it's very disheartening to me. I find it very frustrating that we have all this influence coming in at us, in which we're supposed to look like we have everything together. We are that Pinterest mom that has the perfect newborn pictures, and everything's great, and the kids all look fantastic, and the house is clean and tidy, and everything's put away, and everything just looks so great on the outside. Can you imagine? I can't even do that without children, for one. But can you imagine then having that pressure as a new mom, who you just brought home a new baby that's scary enough the way it is, that now you've been given this baby and you are having to keep it alive 24/7, and there's the pressure of that, and now there's the pressure of, oh, well, you need to have it all together too, and you need to look like this and get your baby body back within 6 weeks and do this and do this. No, like that gives me depression and anxiety just thinking about it for these moms. And I just think like that's so much pressure and so much, even guilt, then if you're not there, can cause some of these women just to fall into this and go into this tailspin if they don't have it together enough, or like one person's doing it better than them. No. Like, you are doing so good and so awesome that like whenever I talk with my clients, I know that like you're at home with a baby and it's like, oh, I don't really have much to do, so I'm just gonna hop on my social media. I encourage a bunch of my clients, take 4 months off from social media after, post a couple cute pics of the babes, and move on, because you just don't need another facet influencing all the things that you have going on within your body and within your new world now with a new child. So like I say, no wonder depression kind of rears its ugly head. But there's my probably 2 minutes by now, tidbit on that. Some of the symptoms that might present with both anxiety and depression with postpartum depression is dizziness and hot flashes. You just might feel like whenever you get up, you're like, okay, whoa, what's going on? And then the blood rush, that's just going to cause those hot flashes. Trouble focusing. We've all heard of this awesome mommy brain, and it's a great brain, and you might feel like, oh my God, it's never working. I actually just had a client say, like, I think my kids are zapping my brain out of me. But there is that kind of that brain fog or that trouble focusing, because you just have so much, if we just have so much going on up within our brain and with our thought process and emotions and all of that, it becomes overwhelmed. And as that more kind of cooks inside of us, that's where that anxiety kind of gets riding up in. And you can start to feel it then, like in the chest and in the throat. But it's just kind of like that. Then you just have, if you have so much going on up in the head, like you say, you got to breastfeed, you got to have, you're up at night, you're taking care of the other kiddos, you're helping taking care of the household, you know, you have a spouse that has their job, and like, you know, you're all starting to kind of form into this new normal for you. And so like there's so much going on upstairs that focus just might be completely off. Fatigue, obviously, this is another kind of symptom of, you know, anxiety and depression postpartumly. That's going to be normal anyway, because there's just going to be a difference in sleep schedule, and like it's just a lot more energy that you're having to put out. So like if fatigue comes in and you're thinking, oh gosh, like oh gosh, it's anxiety or depression, don't go down that route. But if it becomes so overwhelming and like you just can't even feel like you can function, then that might just be kind of a cause, you know, a cause of concern. Low energy, changes in appetite. Some women I see more actually, you know, kind of lose appetite versus gain at this point. And that's just something just to be aware of. We want to actually still continue to get that good, healthy nutrition as we continue to breastfeed and just be there for our family. So just watch those changes in appetite. Also with the depression, the postpartum depression, there's going to be a lot of lows and a lot of disconnect. They talk so much about having the baby, you know, held so closely to you, and how that skin on skin contact is super important. If you start to notice that like you don't really feel, or like that's not an urge within you and it might be fighting you on the inside, that shows a little bit of disconnect there with the baby, as well as, like you say, just the lows. Most people think like, oh yay, the baby's here, but like there's so many things that factor into a woman maybe coming down with some of those lows, and you kind of know your history. Don't try to put your history underneath like a rug and be like, oh no, like I never felt that way before, and we'll get into that just in a second. But like just pick up on like maybe how you've been in the past, how this might be changing. Don't ignore those lows. Feel them. Talk about them with somebody. Talk about them with your spouse, with your OB, with your chiropractor, whoever, with your mental health therapist. Talk about those lows. It's okay. And we're going to be talking about how do these lows even happen. We're going to be getting there. And let's see. So with postpartum depression, kind of moving on there, many times whenever this has been like quote unquote maybe diagnosed, is usually at that 6-week postpartum phase, so 6 weeks after the baby has been born, because that's usually a lot of times whenever we've kind of done the first couple of visits with our doctor right when the baby's born, and then it's usually, you know, a couple weeks after, and that's whenever OBs and doctors might notice, or midwives might notice and pick up some of these postpartum depression symptoms and stuff. But that's just, you know, just kind of be aware around that, you know, 4 to 8, anywhere in that 6-week range. Some things too is the inability and the lacking, like I say, of the bonding. That's kind of a big one with depression. One that we just kind of need to hone in on and focus in on. And going into, well, how did I maybe get this? Why am I suffering with the depression now? Be open like about your own history with anxiety and depression. Did you suffer from it before having the baby? Do you have a family history of depression? Depression actually can run in the family. What's kind of going on there? Are you more susceptible to depression and lows and, you know, lack of energy and stuff like that before baby, and now it's going to be even a little bit more impacted post baby? So like I say, don't put those things like back tucked into a closet. Like if that's your history and that's your past, that's okay. Embrace it, bring it on, because then like versus trying to fight it, you can then accept it. And once you've kind of accepted it a little bit, it's a little bit easier then to move past it and to move through it versus just fighting it. If you're a person also that with anxiety and depression here, if you're more sensitive, and I know that I am so much more sensitive. I know when like hormonal changes are happening within my body, or even like routine changes, I have a hard time with adapting to those things. So if you're a person that's, you know, kind of like your type A, I'm a fun type A though, but if you're a person that changes influence you, or like you're super in tune or super aware with like your bodily, you know, sensations that you feel. Like if you're a person that like can feel like your heart rate increase a little bit, or you can feel, you know, like the brain fog kicking in faster, you're just more sensitive. Your body's just more sensitive. It's more hyper tuned. So that's okay too, but just know that if you're that way before, it might be something that comes up, with that postpartum area, about that postpartum phase. And so it's okay. It's going to affect your mood a little bit. But if you're aware and you're just, like I say, you're conscious of it, and you've, you know, thought about how you were in the past, and like now that the baby's here, maybe these are why you're feeling this way, that's okay. Like, it's okay to let that in, and okay, like I say, to embrace it. So moving on to like postpartum, a little bit postpartum anxiety here. Sorry, my dogs just started clicking in. With anxiety, actually, so we talked about depression being 6% in that one study. Anxiety has been reported, postpartum anxiety has been reported into 11 to 12%. So that's almost double of depression. So much more prevalent. I think that it's, I mean, I don't know how that number actually isn't higher, because once again, we have brought in a new human being into your life. There is a new baby. That's going to bring about a lot more stresses, a lot more concerns. What am I supposed to do? What am I not supposed to do? All of those good things. Anxiety, it kind of clicks in a little bit quicker than depression. Many times anxiety and then depression follows. Excuse me, but 2 weeks to 4 weeks, we are seeing, you know, this is whenever we start seeing like the babies come in with their issues. So there's going to be stuff from colic to reflux to, you know, lack of sleep. Mamas are going to be experiencing all of these things with a new baby, and it's going to start putting stress on mom. It's going to amp up her stress. Like, oh my gosh, like, why is my baby screaming all the time and crying all the time? Well, it's because of the colic. Or, oh my gosh, like, I can't, you know, leave them with anybody else because, you know, they have horrible reflux or gas pains, and like, I can't stand them. Like, I'm having to stay with the baby the entire time, and whems if I'm not there, and this happens. Like, all of this anxiety starts to keep building up within the system of mom, because it's of the stresses that might be having with their baby. It might not necessarily be mom exactly, but it's also coming on with the baby. And so like all that anxiety is just going to start to build up and build up. And anxiety is a normal part of life. Being anxious, it's part of our fight or flight mechanism, which we need to survive. But once the anxiety gets over that threshold, and, you know, threshold of being like, okay, I can handle this anxiousness and this anxiety, to over like excessive, you know, and okay versus severe. And it's okay anxious versus hyper alert all the time. So like I say, anxiety can be completely normal, but once it kind of reaches that threshold and goes beyond that, and there's just irrational fear, that isn't okay. That's whenever we need to start, you know, getting to the root of this, getting it nipped in the bud, and like helping this mama so like she's able to calm back down. Because with the history, once again, of anxiety, if you do have one, it's going to probably come rearing its ugly head there post baby. Not all the time, but it can. And that's where within our history intake, that whenever a new mom comes in, or like a prenatal mom, a mom that's pregnant, we take that history and we kind of dive deep a little bit into how was their, you know, were their fertility issues okay? Do they have anxiety with that? Were they able to get pregnant? Have they had miscarriages or stillbirths before? That's going to amp up anxiety even during the pregnancy, and then after like labor and delivery. And then like you've made it to this point and you're going, okay, now I really have to keep this child alive. Like, it's here. Finally, I've suffered with this stuff before. That's going to amp up some anxiety there. So like, get into a history, and sharing that history with your care providers is very, very important, because then they can help you meet you where you're at and go along with you on that journey, and, you know, just help you get through it. Another thing that I can see too with like anxiety is like if a mama has had a baby before and this new one's here, and this baby starts showing the exact same signs and symptoms that the first one did. So like a mama that first baby had colic or had reflux, they are going to be so in tune with that next baby at the first signs of any of those symptoms. So whenever we start to see moms and like they had those issues before with the baby, they're bringing those babies in super early because they don't want to go through that again of like those sleepless nights and the excessive crying with a colicky baby, because that almost brings back like almost like post-traumatic stress there. So kind of, you know, being in tune with all of that and like bringing to light once again that a lot of this happens and a lot of this goes on, but like finding help and finding resources is just going to be your friend. And like I say, being aware and not fighting it and not pushing it out under the rug is going to be like one of the best things that you can do. So we might think like, so what's happening? Like we're kind of getting to that. So, or we've gotten to that. So like, what's happening? Why is this starting to hang up? Why is it starting to come on? There's lots of changes. And like I say, with anxiety, if you have different, like if you're super in tune, like and like super sensitive to change, it's going to be coming at you. There's lots of changes. There's going to be, you know, changes in routine. There's going to be decrease in sleep. You're caring for a new human being 24/7. That alone is a huge change of things that are happening. There's going to be new relationship dynamics, and there's going to be that with your significant other, and there's going to be that with your friends, and there's going to be that with your other children that you might have. And so many moms, if I can like help with another thing too, is like the mom guilt. It's so hard on mamas, and like moms are, you know, women have guilt the way it is, just who we are. But then you throw in being a mom and having other little kiddos, and like you're not giving them as much attention that you're giving to the baby, and they might not get it, and then they get frustrated, and then all of a sudden mom guilt stinks in. That is so hard. Like I hope I could just help parents, like it's okay. Like mom, like you're doing the best you can. You know, start to find ways in which you can like incorporate those other kiddos, you know, so then it doesn't feel like they're just kind of being neglected, and then that mom guilt sets in for you. Find some things that you can do and like that they can be like responsible of, if it's washing bottles or if it's, you know, restocking the diaper, you know, bin thing. Like just get them involved, and it almost makes them feel like they're part of it. I know you can be like, oh my God, I didn't want it done that way, and little Junior just did it this way, and here I am holding the baby, and I'm like, I get it, but like, and we all have like those like those type A people, they're going to be more like that. That's going to cause more anxiety within them. But once again, it's going to help with that mom guilt, you know, that you're incorporating the other kiddos, and so then that's not residing just within you. Other things of like what's happening, we are going to have a huge change in our sleep. There's going to be a lot of lack of sleep. Thing that we call is mombies, like there's zombie moms. You're up with the baby quite a bit there in those first early months. There's one research study that kind of has sunk in with me for a very long time, is whenever they're talking about, you know, people behind a car, you know, driving behind the wheel, if, you know, the people that had way more like just lack of sleep versus being drunk, the people that had lack of sleep were almost just as dangerous behind the wheel as someone who had been intoxicated. And so think about that just like then within your everyday life. So if you're going through that, you're going to feel like that mom brain and that brain fog's going to be setting in just because from the lack of sleep. So it's just kind of helping your body adapt to all these stresses. Is that what I want to bring to you today? The hormones. So we talked about what is happening, change in routine, lack of sleep, hormones. This one's probably the biggest, and what's going to really influences what goes on within our body underneath the surface. So as you are pregnant, and as you're, you know, making this beautiful baby, you have about 10 to 100 times the amount of those hormones that go towards that kicked into your body. 10 to 100 times more. 24 hours after you have given birth, that comes down and tanks back to 0. So you go from 10 to 100 times of those hormones to 0 within 24 hours. Now, there's a tip that I have that I know that I don't usually share like on social media. So if you have a question for me, like, hey, what's that tip? Reach out to me. I'll share it with you. But it's one of those things like we need to help that be a little bit more of a gradual decline versus just going right off that cliff. Because with hormones, we just talked about like hormonal imbalances within us and how that affects, I mean, how many people have been told like within anxiety and depression, like it's an imbalance within chemicals, within hormones, within your body. all the time. So whenever we go down and we tank in that hormonal imbalance, it's going to throw a lot of things off and a lot of things out of whack. And your body's going to be like, what in the world just happened? So just be aware of that. There's things that you can do to kind of help that alleviate a little bit. Like I say, reach out to me if you're interested in that. But there's some of those things that, you know, that's what's kind of going on and that's what's happening. So with all of that being said, the thing that I want to help with today is bringing to light mom care. Like, moms put themselves on the back burner more than anybody that I know. We always put all the kids in front of us. Everybody else gets everything taken care of before mom. And they say, you know, like, oh, it's really hard, you know, to take care of a baby. It can be, but you know what's also the harder is that you're taking care of everything else around you and yourself while taking care of a baby. That's the hard part. If all we had to do was take care of the baby and everything else was done for us, but that's not normally the norm for most of us, it'd be great. But we have so many other things within our lives that we have to take care of as well. And that what starts to factor into the stress that moms might all start to feel, and what can amp up this depression and anxiety. You need to start to pour into your cups, mom. I'm going to tell you that right now. Start to pour into your cup. And just know this to kind of help alleviate any thought processes or emotions. You are not alone, like I've mentioned so many times. Not a single mother has it all together. Not a single one. We all have our things. Each mom has their pluses and their minuses, and that next mom is going to have a different plus and minus than the mom before. And like I say, don't try to look for, like, you know, feeling like, never feel ashamed, never feel guilty with taking care of yourself, never feel guilty for the emotions that you're having and the feelings that you're having. And like I say, just helping yourself by pouring into your cup, you're able to pour into like your new babies, your families, and all of that. And so just know that, like, taking care of yourself here and like focusing on you is going to be number one, so you can be there for your other people in your life. But what I want from this webinar, and what I wanted this webinar to have done, is just bring awareness, bring the postpartum anxiety and depression to the surface, letting moms know, like, if there's a struggling mom out there and they don't know where to turn, now they might know where to go. They might feel then like they have the power to go and, you know, talk with their midwife, talk with their doctor, talk with their chiropractor, and let this be known. So then, like, you know, admitting and almost coming out to it feels so good. And so like I say, just bring awareness to it. And I also just want to see my moms, like the moms that I take care of, and like even their friends, if they're able to share with their friends who are moms, is just the ability to feel empowered. That maybe, you know, now that you've maybe heard this little webinar, heard some snippets on it, that you're going, okay, like, I can, like, go get some help that I need, or I do need to take better care of myself and dump more into my cup versus giving, and I have nothing left yet to give. And so then what, you know, pouring into your own cup, you're going to build, you know, you're going to pour into it, and then, like, you're able to maybe better adapt to the stresses within your life, and you're able to, you know, then those all of that stress doesn't get amped up within your body, and that anxiety and depression might be able to decrease just a little bit for you. And like, what I also want to do with this webinar is just, you know, help let moms know how to better adapt to their stress. We love caring for moms in this office and just sharing with them on how, you know, like, their chiropractic journey has helped, you know, alleviate a lot of stress within their body, their physical body, which then helps their mind. And, you know, just caring for them and, like, helping them through, like, their anxious states and their stressed out states, and, like, bringing, you know, helping them be able to sleep better, have that better hormone imbalance, better digestion. These are a lot of things that postpartum moms come to us about, and they've been with us on the journey prenatal. They start coming back in, bringing their baby in, and this is when we start working with them again. I think that postnatal care is just as, if not more important than prenatal care. These moms need to be getting the same kind of treatment that they do prenatally. And like I say, with the stresses and helping them alleviate it, it's just like, we want to then not overwhelm their system anymore. We want them to just feel like they have a little bit more of a calmness to them. They know that they can, you know, get this through just, you know, different things within your day. And if it's just taken an hour or two for yourself and saying, hey, like, I can, you know, I'm then able to, you know, let my child be with my husband, or be with their father, or be with their grandmother or uncle or aunt and stuff like that, that anxiety just isn't so much built up within you. I have heard that being a major issue with some mamas is that anxiety starts to ramp in and they feel like they can't trust anybody else with their baby. That's kind of a big sign of like that anxiety's really kicked in. You know, we should be able to, you know, have that ability to relax, to let go, and to know that they're okay. And so like if there's something that you've suffered with on that aspect, like I say, reach out. I encourage you to reach out so much. If there's been anything on this webinar that you're like, yes, like this is me, this is totally me, or this is a friend, tag a friend in this video, let them see it. And just like you say, things you can do, reach out, talk to your spouse, talk to your OB. You can't handle all of this on your own. I know so many moms think that they can. Don't even try. Let that even thought go. Reach out for the help. You don't need to do this alone. Consult with other mom friends. I think this is big. Like, you know, moms are like, oh my God, like I feel like I don't have it together. This is going like this. It's a haywire. And then you turn to another mom and she's like, oh girl, like let me tell you about my day. You know, so you then, once again, it's the feeling of not being alone. And actually here at SJL Wellness, we have our own mom Facebook page that I encourage you to join. Please, please join it. And it's like a real like badass moms page. We have working moms, we have non-working moms, we have older moms, we have super, super young moms. We have everybody from different walks of life. And like you're able to come on there and talk about like, okay, like my kid did this, like what have you guys done? But also be unaware of that, like getting outside information that just kind of, you know, clouds the brain maybe a little bit more, because if you ask for help, you're going to get 10,000 different answers. So just be aware of that if that is a question that you want to go in there and ask, and like be prepared for the answers. But this moms group is actually more about the moms. Like, how are you? What are you doing? How's, you know, home life for you? What are your passions? Do you like yoga? Do you like walking? You know, what do you do for work? You know, da 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 da. And it talks about moms, like then moms don't feel like they get lost in this whole situation of having a baby. I think that, you know, mom lose kind of a little bit of their self sometimes is another thing that I've heard. And this just kind of brings to them saying like, hey, like this is still me. This is my identity. This is who I am. And this is what I have to contribute to like our society. Yes, I'm a mom. That's fantastic and awesome and wonderful. But this is also what I do. And it just kind of helps them bring, you know, themselves back to a little bit of reality, back to who they once were. And a lot of moms, I feel like they have lost that. And I don't want that for anyone. But like I say, the earlier that you can kind of focus in on if you're suffering with any postpartum anxiety and depression, the earlier you meet it head on and try to do some things to help calm it down, to help kind of manage your stress better, seek help. With chiropractic, we are able to kind of help the body adapt to stress much more. That's what my postpartum mamas have said. They go, wow, I wish I've known this with my first 3 kids, because I feel like I was a stressed, anxious, depressed mess. And now like I have 3 other kids and another baby here. And I just feel like I'm way more able to adapt to my stressors. And so that's, as chiropractors, we are able to do, and we can help those mamas do, and that just makes me so happy. But like I say, if there's any of this that's spoken to you or resonated with you, or, you know, it brings to light like your daughter, your daughter-in-law, your friend, any of those cousins, anybody, just be, like I say, don't be afraid to reach out for help. We are here to help you. I appreciate you guys listening today. And like I say, reach out if there's anything that I can do for you. Thanks.